This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed-sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
I am Nicole Khalil, and you're listening to the This Is Woman's Work podcast, where together we're redefining what it means, what it looks and what it feels like to be doing woman's work in the world today. With the new definition being whatever feels true and real and right for you. You are the decider. And while woman's work can mean literally anything, it definitely includes your work, like what you do for a living. Which sounds like it should be an easy thing to figure out, but for many of us, we're still operating under the career advice we got in high school. You know, the do what you love or follow your passion advice we heard from adults who didn't seem to be following their own advice most of the time. Yeah, I'm not saying that this is terrible advice, but I am saying it's very incomplete. They're cute ideas, but for most of us, those platitudes haven't exactly led us to career bliss. Instead, we're trying to survive jobs we don't hate or can barely tolerate while doing work that leaves us wondering, why am I here? And questioning what we're actually good at. And better yet, questioning how we can get paid well while building a career and a life that we actually enjoy. And here's the kicker. We may have been given very incomplete messaging to this whole career planning thing, which sucks, because it's a pretty important life-altering thing, right? Because it's not just about passion or personality. It's about so much more, including what our guests call your hidden genius. That untapped part of you that's not always obvious, but holds the key to your next big move. And if you're thinking, I don't even know if I have a hidden genius, don't worry, you're not alone. Most of us don't, because let's be honest, nobody ever taught us how to find it while they were shouting their feel-good platitudes at us. So here's the good news. There is actually a science to uncovering our hidden genius. It's not some pick your dream job worksheet. It's about understanding how your brain is wired, identifying what our guests call your aptitudes, and leaning into them. It's not just a feel-good exercise. It's a game changer for your career, your relationships, and your life. And that's where our guests come in today. Betsy Wills and Ellison are not only redefining how we approach our careers, but they're also making it clear that this isn't just about getting the right job. It's about creating a life that aligns exactly with who you are. Betsy is the co-founder of YouScience, a cutting-edge psychometric assessment platform that's changing how we understand ourselves. She's also the director of marketing and branding at Diversified Trust and a regular guest lecturer at Vanderbilt and New York Stern School of Business. Alex is the founder of Throughline Guidance, a college and career counseling practice with a global footprint. She writes and lectures extensively on the subject of careers and college readiness. And both of our guests have been featured TEDx speakers. Together, they've co-authored the book, Your Hidden Genius, the science-backed strategy to uncovering and harnessing your innate talents. And I'm so excited to have both of you here today. So, Betsy, Alex, thank you for being here. And I want to start by talking about something I found in your book that says, if your hidden genius were an actual rope, it would be a braided one with 3 strands. The most critical and previously elusive of these is your aptitude profile. I think the other strands are your interest and personality, and those play a key role. But I want to hone in on this aptitude profile. What is that, and how do we discover our own?
Oh, thank you so much for having us, Nicole. I love that you're all about like the nonsense approach. Like you need to get in the driver's seat and you better hurry up and get in that driver's seat or else life's going to pass you by. And that's really what motivated Betsy and I to write this and to really expose people to this hidden element of themselves, which we call aptitudes. It's the thing that we were noticing people just weren't talking a whole lot about. And it's also the piece it takes a little more time. It's a little harder to mine for. So the important thing to know is aptitudes are these pre-baked elements of us that really have to be assessed in order to be identified. So we can't just take a self-report survey, as much as I love all the fun like online BuzzFeed surveys that are out there that tell us all about ourselves in fun ways. We cannot understand our aptitudes that way. Unfortunately, we have our own bias against ourselves. And so if you ask me, what is it that you like to do? Or what is it that you think you're good at? I'm probably not going to give you an incredibly reliable answer. And so aptitudes can only be tested through psychometrics. And so we have a series of exercises that we invite readers to go through the assessment that comes to you for free when you purchase the book. And these exercises are timed brain games. And they're going to tell you things like, are you more of a spatial visualizer or more of an abstract relational thinker? Are you someone who understands ideas sequentially? Or are you someone who understands things more procedurally or more in terms of a process? Do you come up with a lot of ideas on the fly, or are you sort of a one idea and get it done kind of person? So these are aptitudes, and they are not going to tell you if you're going to be the next, amazing basket weaver or, the next CEO of a tech startup, but they are the seeds of your skills. And so with this foundational knowledge, you can build and hone and then develop more intricate skills. So I hope that's a clear answer, but that's sort of the simple answer of what are aptitudes and why they're important.
It is a clear answer, and it's just different than anything that I've heard up to this point. So I'm going to ask this question more for further clarification, not because it wasn't explained clearly, but what are the difference then between aptitudes and skills, or aptitudes and
personality or something?
Yeah, personality or
Okay, so this is why this has been an exciting book to bring to the world, because about in 2010, I co-founded a company called YouScience, and YouScience think of it as career guidance 3.0. Okay, it's similar to, in the 1880s, we'd give people leeches and, a witch doctor would come in and diagnose you. And now we have an MRI. Okay. It's similar in the sense that it's an actual sensor of your aptitudes. Now, these have been around since the 1920s. Okay. But they were very expensive because you had to administer the assessments one by one in an analog way. But the company we started raised an absurd amount of money, because it took a lot of money to bring this analog, expensive assessment that might be $1,000 to take into an online environment. And now we basically democratized it so everyone can access it. So most people have never heard of this because it wasn't available to them before. But thankfully now these are being used in 25% of all U.S. high schools, almost 600 universities and colleges, and millions of individuals. So we've had, I think, 3 million people now take this assessment, and you can access it online instead of going to a center to get it done. So people are like, well, why haven't I heard of this before? It wasn't a plot. It was really just a limitation of technology. So we're here giving good news to everyone.
Okay, great. And then can you kind of help separate the aptitude from a skill or a personality?
Yeah. So if you think about it like, I was thinking of like the example of writing a book, since we just spent several years doing that. So, you might, for example, understand how to sequence ideas and take a lot of, Betsy and I interviewed over 80 people for this book. So that's great. You've got all this data, but to be able to then organize that information sequentially, that's an aptitude. But to write and communicate in an engaging way, we hope that we did that, but that's a skill. right? So that kind of engaging stylistic writing, that's a skill. We talk about Michael Phelps. This is a good analogy. He's got naturally long arms. You could equate that to, that's not an aptitude having long arms, but that's sort of that's compared to what we're talking about with aptitudes. But you've still got to put the hours in the pool. You've still got to develop that skill. So again, we think of aptitudes as like the foundation of the house, and then the skills are the walls.
So what's unique about aptitudes are that they start emerging in all of us when we're about 2 years old. But there's over 52 that we can measure. Most people don't realize that. And so spatial ability, for example, comes out very young. But things like inductive reasoning, sequential reasoning, some other things don't really emerge in all of us till we're about 15, 16 years old. But by the time we've gone through puberty, they are fixed. Okay, they don't change. So they are like reliable jewels in a jewel box that you can keep coming back to. But like anything that you do, they require practice and learning to develop. So you can have all the aptitude in the world to be the greatest architect in the world, but if you don't go to school and get the learning, you're not going to be that. It'll be unrealized, if you will, or untapped.
That's starting to come together in my brain. And you said earlier that you're allowing people to do this aptitude assessment in high school and college, and there's more access. And I think it's pretty easy for our brains to default to see how this is super helpful when it comes to career planning at a young age. I know I wish I would have had something like this.
Right.
But the vast majority of our listeners are not in that early stage of career planning. So how does this help us in our overall career decisions, career happiness, or what you call career wellness?
Well, this is exactly why we wrote the book. In my case, Nicole, I took my first aptitude assessment, you only need one, when I was 32. And it changed everything for me. I had been marching along. I had 2 children. I was very happy. But when I went to do this, it gave me a complete 180 of realization that I could have agency over my career, my own life, my avocations. And so it was the beginning of a journey to build a full life for me, this understanding of where my innate abilities are.
And do you find that we enjoy our work and our life more when we're playing to those strengths or those aptitudes? Or does it become easier? I mean, it seems sort of obvious that this is important information and it would have an impact on our career. But I guess I'm asking, what are you seeing come from people understanding their aptitudes and being able to apply that to their career, their avocations, their hobbies, all the things?
Well, first of all, it's the recognition of why certain things are really frustrating for you. So I took this assessment when I was 25. So I had just started my career, and already I was noticing that certain things were very frustrating or difficult for me. And rather than feel like I was the problem or that I didn't have the ability to work in that role, I now had a language, a vocabulary to say, oh, I'm what's called a concentrated focuser. That's why idea generation meetings in the boardroom that last 3 hours make me crazy. And so then I could not ignore or avoid those situations, but advocate for myself and have more agency and say, look, I'm the kind of person who likes to implement and execute on ideas. How can I do more of that? And then also I could then raise my hand and volunteer to do the kinds of work that really like inspired me and lit me up and energized me. So the first step is understanding these aptitudes, then having the vocabulary to describe what you need, what you want, and how you thrive at work, and to be able to ask for those opportunities and find those opportunities.
So the other part of this is actually the truth, which is no one job is going to meet all of your aptitudes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So building a full life, it is possible. And it's possible when you use your full suite of aptitudes that you have at your disposal. So uncovering these, a lot of times what we find is people's depression or, unhappiness at work is really an unmet aptitude. So that realization can change everything for someone. And they don't necessarily have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, quit their job, put their job on the witness stand, you're the problem. They can actually make small tweaks and changes, to the point of like taking a, ceramics class on the weekend to fulfill a spatial itch that they're not, utilizing. So there's so many outcomes that can come from this. Like Alex said, about advocating for yourself within your job, but also filling in those gaps that maybe have been missing and not honored.
Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that that is true in relationship and in career. There is no one person and there is no one job that's going to meet all of your needs or check all of the boxes, right? And it's our responsibility to get our needs met and to find and create the ways, and even just outside of those two things, that one relationship or that one career. You know how we're supposed to drink a bazillion ounces of water every day? Cute idea, but between work, life, and trying to remember what day it is, hydration doesn't always make the cut, which is why I love Cure. Cure hydration packs make it simple. Plant-based electrolytes, no added sugar, just 25 calories, and it hydrates better than water alone. And you know I love me some efficiency. My favorite flavor is lemonade. It's light, clean, and doesn't taste like somebody dumped a candy store into your water bottle. I use it on long recording days, when I'm traveling, or any day I hit noon and realize that I'm running purely on caffeine. And when I need more than hydration, like pre-workout, where I need all the help I can get, I grab Cure Energy. It's got natural caffeine and electrolytes that get me moving and help me survive the part where I question all my life choices mid-workout. Staying hydrated isn't just about drinking water. You need electrolytes too. That's why I love Cure. It's clean, it tastes great, and it actually works. And for This Is Women's Work listeners, you can get 20% off your first order at curehydration.com/woman's work with code woman's work. And if you get a post-purchase survey, make sure to let them know that you heard about Cure right here. It really helps support the show. Don't just drink more water. Upgrade it with Cure.
Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Let's say any one of us takes the assessment, we discover our aptitudes, and we begin to recognize why we may not be thriving at work, or why we may have the scary Mondays and we're, all of that. For many of us, the decision to just walk away and find another career might not be available, might not be the smartest decision. So once we get this information, any recommendations, and I know your book helps with this too, but any recommendations of how to begin to leverage and utilize it in our very current lives, jobs, and situations?
Well, I would say the first step, as I was kind of saying earlier, is the recognition of what is frustrating to you and why, and what lights you up and why. That, I think, just that awareness can help you get through some of the mundane or frustrating parts of your job, not to abandon them completely, but to just recognize and have some grace with yourself. Like, this is not me. This is me, but it's nothing I can change or should change. That this is just an unmet aptitude. I can't totally ditch my job right now, but this is something I have recognition around. Hopefully in the future, I can do less of this type of work that drains me and more of the type of work that fulfills me. Then I think it's making small tweaks. We all know that if you're well into your career, you're probably not going to just jump ship. You may not have the economic situation to be able to do that. But for example, if you are someone who has this aptitude for spatial reasoning, maybe you stand up and say, you know what, I want to be in more of those design meetings. In the past, I haven't let myself into those, thinking that wasn't something I had a place in, but I want to be in more of those design meetings. Or I really want to write the newsletter. Can I take a crack at that? I really want to do more client-facing work. I've realized that energizes me. Can I have an opportunity to do more of that? So it's these subtle little tweaks that really can make a big difference.
And having something to back that up, right? Like I took
Mm-hmm.
this assessment and I'm aware now that these are my aptitudes. Let's try to play to those strengths as opposed to like going into a room and being like, hey, I think I would enjoy being with clients more. Let's give
Right.
it a try, right? I think there sometimes is some comfort when we go to ask for opportunities like this to have something to back it up. And there is also, I think, maybe more openness if there is feeling like something that's reinforcing this decision.
Well, and then let's talk about your personal life and even your life if you're a parent. Understanding this information changes your relationship because you have a new vocabulary, to Alex's point about how you talk about something. So things, my husband and I, he has perfect pitch. That is one of his aptitudes. Okay. And living with that, Nicole, is a nightmare. Okay. It's a effing nightmare because all he sees is what's off. Okay. That is the gift of someone with perfect pitch. It's not just sound. It's this doesn't taste right. That's crooked. Why is the house so messy when you have one wine glass sitting by the counter and everything else is spotless? And his eye would go straight to that. Okay. And when we realized this, all of a sudden, it became a different conversation. Now, that didn't give him license to critique everything every 5 seconds in front of me, but we could now say, okay, I understand that's really what you see first is what's off. Okay. Now, his job, Nicole, is he's a high-end restoration contractor. Okay. That man can make a punch list like nobody's business. So you can see how something that could, I call it aptitudes gone wild, something where you've got this wonderful gift, but you're sort of misusing it or, applying it in the wrong way. That's the self-awareness that comes with understanding, okay, this is what's happening. Where do I want to put this so that it can flourish? Where do I need to control this so that, the challenges that come with it are not, magnified all over my workplace. So that's the neat thing about aptitudes. They're neither good or bad. They just are. Mm-hmm.
It's a great example. I love that. And also the opening for discussion that happens when you begin to understand other people's aptitudes and you can kind of talk about how to leverage those and also how they might be getting in the way or being annoying, right?
Right. And they do because, Alex and I talk about the writing of the book. Okay. So she mentioned that one of the aptitudes is called idea rate. Okay. So this is literally a measure which everybody takes in the assessment of how consistent and frequently you generate ideas. I have no doubt, Nicole, that you have this. Okay. Teachers have this, podcast leaders, journalists, trainers, corporate trainers, marketers. You don't want your surgeon to have this. Okay. It's not good or bad. It just is. So sometimes the lack of an aptitude is what actually unlocks your opportunity. So again, knowing what they are is so important. Now, I have a rapid flow of ideas. I have to have a glass of wine at night to shut this baby off. Okay. Alex, on the other hand, it's a slow drip. So both of us are writing a book. You would think you have to have a lot of this to write books, but it was such a great pairing to work with someone who has a slower drip, who's really focused on implementing ideas, because she would like rein me in. And I'm going to stop talking because a lot of times people with this aptitude interrupt people. So I'm going to let her have the floor. Go on.
Well, this is what I was talking about when I was early in my career, and I would get so burned out in brainstorming meetings. To me, it's like nails on a chalkboard when someone says, let's go back to the drawing board or let's put a pin in it and talk about it later or reconsider this. I love to see things get done. I love to get to work. I love to implement. It's why I have my own business. I like to move really quickly. But the downside to that, the Achilles heel that I have to manage is being too rash and jumping into things without full consideration. And so to work with an idea generator like Betsy, who comes up with a lot of alternate ideas and opposing ideas, and almost, sometimes we'll play devil's advocate and say, have we considered this though? Have we thought about it this way? As frustrating as that can be for a concentrated focuser like me, it ultimately leads to a better book. And I would say that I, would sometimes rein Betsy in and help us get things on paper. just so we can move forward. So there's this real back and forth that happens. And that's what I love about this. Unlike any other like test or assessment that you would take, there's no pass, fail, good, bad. It's like you use this in this context and this in this context.
Okay, friends, before I ask my next question, let me just let you know that life just keeps on lifing in the middle of our recording. Unfortunately, Alex, I think, had a technology issue and had to bounce out. So we're going to keep going. Betsy, I guess my next question, I kicked off our episode by talking about some incomplete advice that we've gotten.
Right.
And I think one of the things that we hear a lot about in our career is like our development plans and working through our weaknesses, all of that. When it comes to aptitudes, are we focusing on our strengths more?
Yeah, no. So high schools for the last 60 years have used interest assessments, which are like a boomerang, sort of, where you tell the survey something and it comes back and tells you what the survey said that you told it. So that's the way they work. So those are helpful, but your interests change over time. And what's fascinating with 3 million people that YouScience has assessed so far is that what we've uncovered with the data is that women actually have been getting very poor advice on average. Women are, I call it career malpractice, because using interest surveys, all of us know we're socialized in so many ways as women. All well-meaning, it's not a plot, but we're television, our parents, we get messages very young, whether we try to or not. And so people tend to answer those interest questions a certain way, and it leads a huge majority of people into traditional female jobs. But when we look at their aptitude scores, now that we've had 3 million people who have done it, it turns out that women are far more adept in areas that are STEM fields, computer science, for instance, manufacturing, construction, all kinds of things that they just don't consider before they embark on either technical school or school. So what we're focused on are innate abilities, the inborn abilities that can be developed. And when people find their scores out, we have films of people getting their scores on the computer and women literally lifting up almost 2 inches off their seat. Their head goes back like, wow, what do you mean I could be a architect or a nuclear engineer? That's one of the suggestions for me. I never thought about that. I hate math, or they think that because they've been conditioned. So we are focused on, I guess you would say, strengths, but it's much more about the potential that you have to build on the aptitudes and build skills from there.
I love the word potential. I mean, yeah. I just lifted up in my seat a couple inches. So where does knowing or not knowing our aptitudes impact burnout? And the reason I ask is because I hear from so many women that they're experiencing burnout in today's day and age, not just because of our careers, but because of the never-ending to-do list. Yeah. So how does that help?
Okay, so usually burnout, well, it could be many things. Obviously, your life is too busy, you're overwhelmed, that kind of thing. But within the job context, it's normally because you are overtaxing an aptitude that you are not as strong in. And the converse of that is almost as important. And we call that boredom. And boredom comes from when you're being malemployed or doing a job that is not tapping into this full suite of aptitudes for you. So burnout is it's just an epidemic now. And I think, things like remote work can contribute to that depending on how you're wired. But, what to do about it is, again, a recognition of what gives you that energy and zeal for what you're doing. And then what is not being tapped, because that can be an extreme culprit in the situation.
I wanted to ask the question why you feel science is so important when it comes to understanding our aptitudes as well as how we apply that in our lives and our careers. And the reason I ask is because you mentioned this earlier. I think we've been inundated with opinions, the shoulds and the supposed tos, and what people think we're good at or not good at, or where we might find ourselves or not find ourselves. Why was it so important for you for this to be a science-backed approach?
Well, because unlike every other assessment out there, which are self-report, anything that asks you on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm this. Science can now unlock this information. This is like the MRI machine compared to, a doctor sitting you down and you telling the doctor you have breast cancer. Okay. He would never accept that. He would do tests, right? And so that's the whole thing. We want to give people real information about where their potential lies. And then it's up to you to take it to the next level. But it is so motivating to have it confirmed and, congratulated in you. Like, yes, you have the potential to do these things. Now go do it. That's motivating. And when people take the aptitude test, they know they can't game it. When you're in the middle of this, you won't even know what we're actually assessing. So when you get your scores, it's like this huge Christmas present all wrapped up with a bow. It's wonderful.
Okay. And then my last question is around, once we know our aptitudes, there's still work to be done, right? There's still opportunity to use and leverage and develop or let it atrophy or, you use the Michael Phelps example. It's like, yes, he may have the aptitude to be a swimmer, but he still needs to practice and get coaching and all of that. So once we've uncovered and discovered our aptitudes, where does hard work, self-development, coaching, where do things like that come into play?
Well, again, knowing your aptitudes is motivating. But what you get when you take the assessment is this whole online kind of career center that you can access any time of the day. And it comes with all kinds of tools and our website as well, but all kinds of tools for writing your resume, for how you talk about yourself, for interview skills, that kind of thing. But also it points to, here's the certifications you might want to consider doing if you considered this job. So it not only helps you take the tyranny of choice of all the options out there that you might pivot to, narrows it down for you, then you can explore, then you can see what are the tools I'm going to need to get there. So, but I do have an exercise for you kind of to sum this up, if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
And I'd ask all your listeners to do this as well. But take out a pen and write your name down. Okay, now I want you to switch hands, Nicole, and write it with your non-dominant hand.
It's awful.
Okay.
So uncomfortable and does not look like my name, but yeah.
Okay, painful, right. Okay. Now, what if at some point you were in a terrible accident and your dominant hand was injured so much that you had to use your non-dominant hand? Well, after a while, you would get better at writing because you'd be using it all the time. But Nicole, you're never going to be a calligrapher. Okay. So if you can think of an aptitude as that thing that comes naturally and easily to you, and the other as you're on the struggle bus, get off the struggle bus. Okay. Stop using your non-dominant hand constantly when you've got a perfectly natural one to use. So that's sort of how I like to kind of level set people on what this is and what it's not. So, you really can't fool yourself into working with your non-dominant hand. But we can do anything with practice.
Right.
So
exactly. If given the choice, if I had to, we would do what we all do, which is we figure it out. But in the absence of having to, why make things harder than they need to be?
Exactly.
So I know I personally am going to right away do my own aptitude assessment. I just want to make sure I'm sending people to the right best places. So the book is Your Hidden Genius, which is available on Amazon or wherever it is that you buy books. Go to your local bookstore. Let's keep them in business. Once we have the book, there's a place for us to do our assessment, correct?
Right. Everyone gets a unique code, which will be found on the back of the book under a sticker. And that code, you go to yourhiddengenius.com and redeem it, and then you're off and running into this wonderful online world that I think you're going to find very valuable.
Incredible. I am so excited to uncover and discover my own aptitudes, and I could not thank you and Alex enough for doing this work and bringing it to the masses and making it accessible to all of us. So thank you for being here, and thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having us. And we'll miss Alex because she's somehow in the wilds of the internet, I guess, trying to get back on, but she sends her love.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let me close us out by sharing what are a few of my big takeaways. Uncovering your hidden genius isn't just about finding a career you love. It's about uncovering what makes you you. It's about discovering what makes you tick, what you're naturally wired to do, and leaning into it without bending to someone else's definition of success or opinions about what you should and shouldn't be doing. When we align our lives and our careers with our own unique aptitudes, something incredible happens. We stop surviving and tolerating, and we start thriving and enjoying. Because let's be clear, the world doesn't need more people just doing jobs. It needs people bringing their genius, their talents, and their authentic selves to the table. Understanding our aptitudes isn't just a tool for career wellness. It's a way to uncover and share our hidden genius with the world. And doing that is not just important. It's also what it means to be doing woman's work.
You know the words dominating today's headlines.
Private equity,
generative capital gains tax,
America's chip
fueled by market volatility.
Bets on Fed rate cuts are sweet.
But do you understand how they impact your world and your wallet? In a world that skims the what, understand the why. Because context changes everything. Subscribe at Bloomberg.com.